time's gone a bit silky. Alright, in your own time, off you go.
Right, so this is my pitch for my film, which is called My Girlfriend Wants to Sacrifice Me. Very on-the-nose title. So without wasting time, let's get on with it. So the overview of my film. So the premise is essentially about a young man called Justin, who is represented as the normal, everyday sort of person, not someone who you'd genuinely notice in a frequent setting, who meets a girl named Crystal on a dating app, and they become a couple. Then Justin discovers some terrible truths when he visits her house while she's out, and this culminates in him finding out that she is in fact part of a network of serial killers who aspire to kill people in exchange to drinking their blood to become more youthful. And it's up to him to try and stop them, well not stop them, but you know, try and temporarily halt them before they do any damage. So that's the basic sort of layout for my film. The genre is going to be sort of dark comedy, crime, horror adjacent sort of thing. I believe it is horror in the same sense that Watership Down is considered horror. Not exactly horror, but it could be seen as horror. And postmodernist if you really want to consider it that. The setting will be an unspecified town somewhere in the southwest of England. There's no specific place, but if you look a bit closer, it might be Wiltshire, who knows. Basically, Justin is incredibly naive. He doesn't exactly realise that Crystal is inherently a bad person because she puts on a facade that lasts a bit into the film. Obviously it breaks when he discovers her scheme, but you know, that's part of it. And a name, I chose her name very specifically as parts of her name actually mean kill, if you take away the R and the S and the T. So there you go. That's the whole overview of it. So narrative, detail. The three-act structure. It will begin as Justin matches with Crystal. It will be seen as sort of montage thing of him matching and then becoming a couple sort of thing. The confrontation, which is Act 2, will come in the form of her visiting the house, going out to take up the trash as requested by her, which is in the script, and then he sort of discovering a severed body part in the trash, not something you'd genuinely want to see in the trash. She then is contacting her local boss, who runs the network, who's sort of a kingpin, and he demands more sort of blood because they're running out. And then she contacts another serial killer, who then who helps her in some respect. And the resolution will be at the forest, where Justin tries to steal the blood and take it to the police or something, and Crystal, the other guy, confronts him. The other guy, by the way, is called Larky. I didn't mention that, but he's called Larky. They confront him. Justin defeats them both in some way or another, and he goes on to write a document about it, or article, whatever you want to call it. The character profile. So Justin is the representation of what I consider to be a normal person, someone who you generally wouldn't match an eye to or bat an eye to. He's very sarcastic, I would say, in a situation. Obviously, when he first confronts a situation, he's worried, but I think that'd be all our reactions really. But in this one, for comedic effect, it's over dramatised for comic effect, obviously. Crystal is part of the network of serial killers, and she has a strong use of facades to try and get her way with people as a sort of disguise against her. She is very manipulative, well, not directly, but in a way, sort of telling Justin that she is friendly and stuff, but obviously that's not true. And she's very passive-aggressive. which will be the case when she's in the forest. Larky, who carries weapons on him, he dresses smartly. We'll get to that a bit later, but he's not exactly normal, but he's more normal than Crystal. He's more in between evil and normal, if it makes any sense. And the boss is unseen. He is not a visible character in the film. He is just a voice who is more aggressive than Crystal because he runs the network and he has to try and keep things in order. And obviously, when being the boss of the network, you have to be incredibly strict with people, especially if it's a criminal network. So there you go. That's sort of a rundown of the stuff. So production detail, locations. For this film, it will mostly be shot in Westbury. For the whole reason of I live there, and most of the people I've picked for this film live in Westbury. That's the exception of voices, of which I'll cover later. So there's stuff like, the only part I'll shoot in Trowbridge here is the edit suite, which will be used as the place where Justin writes on the document. And there'll be other locations used in Westbury, like Chestnut Railway Park. My house will be used as Crystal's house. The forest, there's a forest at the end of a neighbourhood, which I intend to use as the forest, and luckily there is a small place where there'll be there'll be a place where the blood tube can go, and it all makes sense when shown, so, you know, there you go. Filmmaking techniques. For this, I feel like it needs a more sort of conventional way of dealing with it. So low angles will be used as a sort of way to show confrontation with, Crystal being seen as the higher person than Justin, who's down there and she's up there, as a visual metaphor. There'll also be various other shots, shots from behind and shaky shots, handheld shots. There'll be some shots with a tripod. I'm thinking of using a tripod for some shots because it'll be different scenes shot with different ways of, tripod and handheld will mean more aggressive scenes and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's what I'm after. Costumes. Justin will be dressed normally, as how I see normally. So stuff like hoodies and joggers and whatever it is people wear nowadays. Not really what I'm wearing, but sort of it. Crystal, I intend to in a sort of dress, a green dress. I've already got the costume sorted out, and it's a green dress, and she has orange hair, so that's basically it. Larky will be wearing a sort of pink shirt with a black jacket, which I think will show him as not normal, but normal enough to differentiate. There'll be no costume for the boss because he's not seen. Sound effects will include keyboard typing and phone callings and blood, and not that I'm going to do the blood, but the keyboard and phones are fairly easy to do. Stunts, I might have changed this a little bit from when I did this, but fake stabbed is the biggest risk I could see. Despite the fact that the fake daggers I have are retractable, something could maybe possibly go wrong, but from what I've seen it's fine, but it's there just in case. And I've added a few extra parts that involve falling and punching and stuff, so there's obviously going to be some stunts in this, but they're not going to be at a rate that would be seen as exaggerated throughout. It's only going to be in one particular scene where they're all going to be at, so there's that. And equipment. The lighting, I want to talk to the lighting first. Lighting will generally be more natural than artificial. There might be some scenes where lighting will have to be artificially made, such as in the darker scenes in the bunker, where I have to light stuff. But obviously, with bunkers and generally dark places, people get torches and shine them in places, and that will generally give off a dark enough atmosphere, but not dark enough to be completely hidden. And cameras, I have my own camera at home, a DSLR, that specific one on screen. But obviously, that's if if something does go wrong and a camera, I don't actually get a camera, but that's everything. Uniqueness. What makes this film truly unique against other films? So this film is essentially about cults. They're essentially about a group of people basically disjointed with society, not entirely knowing what other people get on with. So there are obviously themes in the steps of films like Midsummer and Kill List and stuff. So yeah, they're quintessential cult films, but it's also the idea that someone you might meet in person may not be who they think they are. But I want to put that in a more comic way. And humour is the key part in making this unique, because what you've got to think about is that most films made nowadays are sort of, not to say dramatic, but sort of, not that funny. So, that's what I want to try and do. Technical motivation. I want to make juxtaposition is a big part of my film. Now, juxtaposition basically involves taking one element that doesn't match in a place and then getting a place that doesn't match with the element. So the element and the environment clash. But that's the sort of thing I want to get across with this. Because you generally see the forest as a place of walking, you take your dogs there, go on a walk and that sort of thing. But in this film, it's seen as a sort of, an enclosed space, dark, sort of green, claustrophobic place. Not claustrophobic, but in some way related to that. So that's the sort of framing and technical stuff that I want to do. Obviously, in relation to big issues, one of the key parts is social media. Social media obviously has played a huge role in our society nowadays, and even when you strip all the comedy dry from the film, it presents an interesting issue about who we perceive on the internet as trustworthy, or who we can see as properly, to people who we can love. So yeah, there you go. That's in relation to current issues. My personal motivations is the idea of a person introverted. Now, I forgot to touch on this, but Justin is also an introverted person. He doesn't exactly know what love is. A bit like me. I've not got a girlfriend, not to brag, but still, there's a massive difference between introverted people and extroverted people. Justin is an introverted person, and other people may be extroverted. So there's a view of love from the perspective of someone who might be introverted in the film. Well, that obviously depends. So there you go. Inspiration for the film.
So that's 10 minutes now, Tom, so just wrapping up after that.
Alright, so inspiration, stuff like Watership Down, which is not a horror film, but it's in relation, it's adjacent to the genre, so there you go. Inglourious Bastards. There's a particular scene in question where they're confronting the Nazis and stuff in a forest, and I want to give up that sort of theme in my film, so there you go. And you have Fresh, which is a film about a cult as well, reverse gender version of it. I'd say that's also unique, the fact that a woman's killing a man. And Sweeney Todd, who just kills people. That's a typical implications of cannibalism in the film, so there you go. Sweeney Todd. The key targets will be casting. I think I've got most of my actors down. Charlie will be playing both Justin and Crystal. There's another unique selling point, but like what Eddie Murphy does in his films. Larky will be Oscar. The boss will be voiced by Benjamin, and I will voice the narrator because I want to feel like I'm telling the story from my perspective. Locations. I specifically chose locations that wouldn't require permission, so it would be much more easy for me to film there. Like my house, you don't really need permission to film in a house, but there you go. Props. I've got props ready. I've got got fake blood, fake daggers, blood test tubes and stuff, and I've also got a fake brick coming my way, so they'll be used in the film at some point, I hope. And script. I've got my script. It's 19 pages. And I think the 90 pages are necessary for the dialogue, because I think if you even remove like one page, it might take away a big element of the story, so there you go. And there's of course the calendar, which will show the dates filming. I want to film on both dates because Charlie's not free on the weekdays because he's filming with someone else. I think it was I don't know whether it was Charlie or Ben. I don't know, but he's free on Friday in the day. So there you go. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Tom. All right, so I think you come across like you know your film really well, and you know the kind of some of the thematics going on there. I think that's come across clear, and from the presentation you're considering lots of possibilities. That's really good. I would say from that presentation alone, I don't know what your film looks like, and that you need to work on, whether you've got that on your website, but it's not on here. But I don't know. There's no kind of visual references of what I'm aiming for, what you're aiming for. Sorry. So just if you've got those, always have those in a presentation, because it's just kind of words, and I want to see words is fine with imagery to say these are my kind of goals, and clarifying your aims. I haven't read the script, but you're saying it's 19 pages and nothing can be taken out, otherwise it won't work. That may be true, but when you first pitched me the idea, it sounded like a kind of a comedy horror with a kind of romancy comedy rom-com horror, which I really liked, and it does feel from what you've pitched like it's expanded quite large to something bigger, and I think you just need to be careful with that. And I haven't read the script, but you're making it spreading yourself so thin from your resources and abilities and what you can do, that it's going to start damaging the quality. And you're not the only one. I've got some scripts that are really long, and I'm saying the same thing to them. So what you really need to consider is can I tell the same type of story with the same elements, the same thematics, but can it be all in one spot? Can it be just two characters? Because initially, when you pitched that idea, I thought, great, he's got a house, he's got a reason for them setting up, and it's got this sort of set up as this kind of cheesy date or dating, awkward comedy drama dating, and then it turns into something else, and it's kind of funny, awful, she's a serial killer, and all her other dead boyfriends are in the house, and he's finding them. And I think that's a really nice setup. And that would still be hard to film, but it feels like you've got quite a few more characters added and more locations, which again might really work, but it does feel like you've made it quite epic. Is that a fair comment?
I don't think so. I think I've really tried to consider, and this is me being honest here, I've really tried to consider what is possible with the limited time and budget I have. It's 19 pages, which from an outsider perspective looks like a lot of pages, more pages than possible.
Well, let's put that, it's a 20-minute film essentially, and let's say you're doing, annoyingly I can't find my phone, but if you're doing 5 shots an hour, 6 shots an hour, and you're not rushing, there's working quickly and there's not rushing, how many shots do you think you need for a 20-minute, let's say when you're doing when you're doing your horror things and they were quite short, you're talking 70 odd shots. So if you're doubling it, you're 150 shots maybe, just as a ballpark figure. So then try and work out how many days you need from that if you're shooting 5 to 6 shots an hour, and that will give you how long you roughly need to shoot this film. That's with it running smoothly and nothing going wrong. So it might be 4 to 5 days at kind of 8 hours a day, or maybe 6 days at kind of 6 hours a day. Right. So they're really big. That's a really massive shoot. That's a really big shoot. For a short film, You know, you can make, some people make feature films in a week. So I'm not trying to crush your dreams. I'm not saying you can't do it. I just think you need to really consider, you know, am I just spreading this too long and my resources too thin? And can you get the same joke and the same kind of tone in a much smaller piece, which ultimately, if you're making it less and you've got let's say you've got 4 days to shoot this and you've got a 5 to 10 page script, you're going to have way more time, aren't you, to make sure those shots work and everything's working, and if something goes wrong, you've got a bit of time to shoot more if necessary, or reshoot if necessary. What you've got sounds really big.
I don't think it's big. I think it's reasonable.
I mean,
because
yeah.
I mean, the amount of locations and you know the 19 pages again. That seems like a lot. And
it is a lot.
I mean, it is a lot, considering that the estimated time that a screenplay, a script is roughly 1 page equals to a minute.
Yes,
so
yes.
that would be 90 minutes. But I think it might be much shorter than that. I think Sai's been very willing to work with me, and I think if he's willing to press on with it, I think it could be. Considering I've got 3 days for 3 weeks to shoot this, I don't think it would be impossible.
No, I'm not saying it's not impossible. I'm not saying you can't do this. There's a difference. I'm saying the longer you make it, the more it turns into a kind of, we've just got to somehow get this filmed task, rather than it being, I'm going to readjust this shot task. I don't like the way that's lit, or I don't like the angle, I'm going to reshoot that, because you've got more time to work on it, and you've got more time to kind of craft the performances how you want, because the film is not so long, so you've got more time to be particular, and you've got more time to be fussy, and you've got more time to go, no, that didn't work, we're going to go again. If you've got this massive script where it's just like, we've just got to get through this film, you're compromising quality over just the feasibility of it. Does that make sense?
A bit.
Yeah. So just, you know, you do you. It's your project, and you know, I want it to be a success. I just also want you to really consider: is there another way I can tell this story that's very, very similar? It's just much smaller scale, so I can concentrate on the quality of the acting and the quality of the shots, and I'm not just trying to get through this massive shot list.
Right.
Okay. So just, you know, some of the best short films I've seen are a few minutes long. They're really short, and that's why they're so effective, because they're short films, and they hit home something really quickly, and they make the audience laugh, and then it's gone. So you've got to, I think, for short comedies, really, you've got to think a bit more like that. Otherwise, it might be just a really difficult task for you to just accomplish. You might get it done, but you've really got to think, did I compromise the quality of the film by making it such a long thing? All right, okay, enough of me lecturing. Okay, so some films you could look into. So have you looked at the things like sort of Edgar Wright in terms of like horror comedies? Because he did like kind of Shaun of the Dead, where it was kind of like, I know that was kind of very much a parody of like zombie films.
That's the only horror film he did, I think. No, wait, he did Last Night Soho as well.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be like, you know, it could be like, you know, you're kind of parodying, you know, you're doing a kind of mockery horror thing, a little bit of like kind of slashers and romance. So like,
Kinda.
Yeah, so just kind of, you're making fun of that a little bit. So like knowing that really well will make that funny, and those kind of taking the mickey out of those sort of conventions, or kind of rom-coms perhaps, and he's dating. It's a bit like there's films like, you know, My Ex-Wife is a Serial Killer, or things like that. I can't remember, I think it was Mike Myers, and that's quite old now. But I think there's a few more. I haven't looked at your website properly yet, but like just some films I think that would help you contextualise the humour. Okay. So who your actors, just quickly go over your actors with me again. So who's just playing it?
Let's go back. Charlie will be playing Justin and Crystal.
Right. How's he doing that?
Double masking stuff.
But so he looks very much like a man.
Yeah, that's sort of the whole point. Is that in his character he is a woman, but he looks like a man.
So is he wearing a wig?
He's wearing a wig and a green dress.
Okay, I don't mind that at all. I think, but if you're doing things like that, it will go into kind of farce. Like the comedy of it will seem like more like a comedy rather than it'll be more ridiculous than you think. If you've got a man who clearly doesn't look like a woman pretending to be a woman and he's wearing kind of a bit in drag, it might come across like more. And that's fine, if that's what you're going for, that's fine, but it will come across as quite silly, and if you're not going down that silly route, then you need to reconsider who's going to play Crystal.
I think I want it. Yeah, I think it's silly. I think it is silly. I think, considering that, and considering I just did a bit of a rewrite of the film, it's going to be like part sort of moderately silly and then silly.
Why don't you want to get an actual woman to play that role?
Because I don't think there's many who.
But you're not doing it just because
No.
find anyone.
I'm doing it because there's not. I don't think there's people who live in Westbury who would want to play that role.
Yes. Okay. So it's more about a necessity, perhaps, that Charlie does it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'm not trying to be malicious or anything.
No. I know you're not, but I'm just saying. No, I'm not sure you're not. But you're just like if you've got a guy doing that type of role, it will have a certain type of humour.
Yeah.
That you have to like work with, not against. So if that's who your lead character is playing, two characters, and it's clearly the same person, and he clearly isn't a woman, then you're kind of getting into kind of sketch show type thing, which is absolutely fine. You just need to be aware of that.
I am aware of that.
Yeah.
I knew that once he was put into that role, I knew it was going to have certain implications as to what the tone of humour was going to be.
Yeah.
So I knew that it was going to go from sort of comedy to farce sort of situation.
Yeah.
So I understand that. So
totally. Okay. So just with that in mind, like when you're finalising the script, like there can be more silly humour in it.
Yeah,
So,
of course. Yeah.
Because and also Oscar's is a kind of a comedy actor, really, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll be playing a substantially silly role.
Yes.
Sort of.
So it's kind of you're going full on silly, really.
Yeah.
So you kind of need to embrace that silliness as much as you can. So the jokes can be more out there and more silly, and the kind of irrational of it can be like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Tom. So send me the script.
I think
I'll try and read it before. I would definitely want to read it before you shoot. But it feels like something like this can be short and sweet and not too long. And I just think you should maybe reconsider. Like I need to just try a write and short version, in case this version just doesn't work, or I shoot the first day and I only get 3 pages done, and I've only got 3 days left, and I've got 16 pages left to film. That type of thing you want to be mindful of.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to have your kind of your kind of shoot, producer hat on, going, is this feasible? You've got to be more honest with yourself. So maybe start that script, but I would have a backup script to go that's under 10 pages that you can quickly switch to if this starts going wrong or starts taking too long.
Alright.
Okay, just as a safety procedure, and it doesn't really matter if you don't need it, you don't need it.
Yeah.
All right, have you got any other questions for now?
Not that I